June 22nd, 1941. Adolf Hitler orders the invasion of the Soviet Union in the largest military campaign of World War II, Operation Barbarossa. Within 2 months, Nazi troops occupied Belarusia. There they massacred tens of thousands of Jews by the end of spring 1942. Those who aren't killed are moved into crowded, closely guarded ghettos. All of their personal property is confiscated, and they are forced to wear the Star of David to identify themselves. Yehuda Bielski, one of those Jews confined to the ghetto, receives a letter delivered by a Christian friend. Dear Yehuda, we are hiding in the forest, and we do not plan to submit to the Germans. Bring your wife, a few good men, and we will build something together. Please do not hesitate. I hope to see you soon in the forest. Your cousin, Tuvia. Yehuda wastes no time getting together a group of men. They escape through a hole in the fence boards, crawling into an open field. They make their way to the dense Belarusian forest, where they soon meet up with Tuvia Bielski and his brothers, and begin one of the most daring and successful rescue efforts of the Holocaust. Tuvia Bielski, one of 12 children, grew up in Stankovic, a rural village in eastern Poland. The Bielski family, the only Jews in the community, ran a small farm and a mill. As they became strong young men, Tuvia and his brothers, Asoil and Zush, developed fearsome reputation.
My brothers were very powerful men. The Gentile neighbors, everybody knew them. Gentile neighbors were afraid of them. The Gentile would never win a fight with them, with any one of my brothers.
In July 1941, the Germans arrived in Stankovic and moved all of the Jewish residents to a ghetto in the town of Novogrudek. Tuvia and Zush escaped to the nearby Belarusian forest, where they explored as children. Asoil and younger brother Aaron would later join them. The first large massacre of Novogrudek Jews took place on December 8, 1941. More than 4,000 people were tortured and killed by the Nazis. The Bielski's parents, 2 of their brothers, and other family members, including Zush's wife and child, were among the dead. The following spring, the brothers started to gather their surviving relatives into a densely wooded area near the Neman River. With the help of non-Jewish friends, they also began collecting weapons. Tuvia, a Polish army veteran and charismatic leader, was chosen to be the commander of the group. As the slaughter of Jews continued in Novogrudek and other ghettos, Tuvia decided to expand the group beyond their relatives. While his brothers argued that it would be safer to keep the unit small, Tuvia wanted to bring in as many Jews into the forest as possible, not only those who were able to fight, but every man, woman, and child. He sent his men to the ghettos to help captives escape and lead them to the woods. Tuvia became obsessed with saving Jewish lives.
He's a very complex and interesting character. He had an extraordinary combination of strength and sensitivity. Of course, it was at his insistence that the group became as large as it was and became a rescue group rather than a mere resistance group. And I think he had deep wells of feeling for his people that doesn't always sit easily with a person of such physical strength.
The Bielski Partisans also fought back, killing many Nazis and their collaborators. But unlike other Jewish partisans, their primary mission was always to protect their fellow Jews. Tuvia is often quoted as saying, "I would rather save one old Jewish woman than kill 10 German soldiers." At first, the Bielski Partisans were always on a run, but by the summer of 1943, there were 700 Jews in the group, and their large numbers made it more likely that they would be discovered by the Nazi patrols. They were also afraid that the local peasants who were giving them food might turn them in. So in December 1943, they set up a permanent camp in the dense, swampy Naliboki forest. It was here that the Bielski brothers accomplished the extraordinary. They created a Jewish community, or as the partisans called it, Jerusalem in the Woods. The group set up a mill, a bakery, a hospital, a synagogue, and a school. There were several workshops that employed skilled cobblers, carpenters, tailors, and blacksmiths. There was even a courthouse and jail.
Like a story out of ancient mythology. 3 brothers, the oldest one is the leader, and they all have their distinctive personalities, and this great occupying army comes into their land, and they retreat to the forest and create this refuge for their people that has its own working community eventually, deep in the dense forests of their land. And so it sounds like something that you would hear over a campfire.
Even though it would have been easier to protect a small unit, Tuvia Bielski never turned anyone away, no matter their age or ability. His remarkable courage and compassion seemed superhuman to those around him. He even rode a white horse through the forest, a detail that would be almost unbelievable if it hadn't been captured in memory by survivors. As the Bielski group grew bigger, they faced many different challenges. One of the biggest challenges was feeding everyone. Armed men were put in charge of gathering food from peasants in the village. The dilemma was not knowing which peasants they could trust.
It was a vast area, and having so many people to feed was really one of the biggest problems that they had. They had 1,250 people. So everybody, they had food missions they go out on every day. It was it was cold very cold in the wintertime. It was the threat of being found out by the Nazis was every single day because they were looking for them. They had the Germans had prices on their heads, on my grandfather's head, on his brother's head. So anybody who brought them in, we would get money for them. So there were always people looking for them. And the brothers were ghosts in the forest. They knew that they were there, but they could never find them.
Eventually, the Bielski Partisans started cooperating with the Soviet partisans, who were also in the Naliboki forest. They often fought side by side in military operations against the Germans and their allies. The Soviet commanders tried to bring the Jewish partisans into their unit, but the Bielski group resisted and stayed under Kubiak's command, never forgetting their prior mission, to save Jewish lives. In the summer of 1944, the German occupying forces were overrun by the Soviet Red Army and driven back toward Berlin. After 2.5 years, over 1,200 Jews walked out of the forest into freedom. Most of those rescued were women, children, and elderly people, who would have been killed by the Nazis. It was one of the largest rescues of Jews during World War II.
We're a Jewish group of 150 young men who went into the forest and committed acts of sabotage that would be worthy of honor. But when it becomes a story of those who can't, in a war where survival is death and life and death that hangs in every move, when you have an old woman who can barely walk very fast and you've decided that you're going to protect her, and others, children, who again slow the group down, leave it vulnerable to annihilation at any moment. That's an act of great heroism and risk, and to succeed in doing that, and indeed to have a group as large as it was, 1,200, puts it into Winston Churchill land in terms of the great heroes of the war.
After World War II, Asoyal joined the Soviet Red Army, and 6 months later was killed in battle. Tuvia, Zush, and Aaron emigrated to Palestine and fought in Israel's War of Independence. The brothers eventually moved to the United States, where they lived quiet, unassuming lives with their families. Tuvia died in 1987, never thinking of himself as a hero. Yet 5 generations later, tens of thousands of survivors' descendants are here because of his courage and compassion.
People always ask, why, what made him do what he did, and how could he have done that? And, it's a pretty common answer that he just didn't think that there was any other choice. He was put in a position where he wanted to save as many people as he could, and he didn't really think about it. He just made that decision.
Dort beim Breck von Wäldl steht ein alter Bäum, schäptchen seine Blätter, als mein Herz sie kaum, schäptchen und erzählen, wie es starb a Held, wenn es fallen Keulen über Wald und Feld. Schäptchen und erzählen, wie es starb a Held, wenn es fallen Keulen über Wald und Feld.